The time is just gone 9:21 as we continue with News and Views, the second half of the broadcast this morning. We are coming to you live out of the Kurtuba Islamic Academy this morning, where earlier on we had British academic, we had Dr. Azam Tamimi with us in studio, and this is the reason why we are doing the show live this morning out of the Kurtuba Islamic Academy. But moving on, we've still got a number of issues to discuss, and one of the key issues is looking at some of the amendments in terms of the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill. We will be talking shortly to Robyn Pasensie, and also taking a look 13 years since the fall of Egypt's Hosni Mubarak. We will recall the Arab Spring and what impact that has had. We've got British journalist and author this morning with us, Yvonne Ridley, and also taking a look at embracing the essence of Al-Aqsa Week towards the end of the broadcast. But right now, we're going across to be joined by a political. We're talking about, she holds a master's in political science, a PhD candidate. Her job entails research on political funding and driving awareness on the need for party funding frameworks. We're talking with none other than Robyn Pasensie. Robyn, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning and thank you for having me on.
Yes, clearly this is going to be a critical year. It is going to be election year. And I'm sure tonight, with the State of the Nation address, President Cyril Ramaphosa, in all likelihood, will be announcing the date of the elections. These are the expectations. But looking at South Africa and 30 years into our democracy, electoral matters, electoral legislation, all of that has come under the radar. It's come under scrutiny for a very, very long time. It's evolved over a period of time. And these amendments sometimes are important, they're necessary.
Absolutely. And like you said, we are in sort of a watershed year. This is 30 years of democracy. This is an election that many are touting as being truly significant, following on from our very first in 1994. And what we have seen in the last week was oral submissions for the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill. Now, as you may recall, last year we had a really long and drawn out process of electoral reform, where we were now including independent candidates for the national election. This is something we've never had before. So this will be entirely new for this year's elections. And because of that, there was a need to amend other related pieces of legislation to adequately include independent candidates in that. And this is what this particular bill is about.
Yes, but just looking at it, and also I think what has come also under scrutiny is sometimes the disparity in terms of the bill as well, in terms of how parties are actually looked at. I mean, is it in favor of certain parties? Is it not in favor of certain parties? All of this one needs to take into account and one needs to take cognizance of, Robyn.
Absolutely. I mean, look, this is the importance of the legislative process. So obviously, this is what we have Parliament for. You are meant to make laws, as will be through the tabling of bills such as the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill. And here, the point is not to actually put forward any particular kind of political party. Obviously, the point here is instead to create an electoral system that seems to be more equitable and will present more political representation for the South African voter or just the public at large. And what we have with the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill is more concerns around how independents have been provided for under a related piece of legislation, the Political Party Funding Act. And our concerns are really about any disparities that may arise in the funding of our political representatives.
Yes, and also often we hear the term free and fair elections, and it's not about what happens on elections day. It's a build up to the elections in terms of both legislation, in terms of how parties are looked at. You mentioned party funding, which is absolutely important because that also has been a major sticky point, for want of a better term, for a very, very long time, Robyn.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not something that has come up this year, last year, even in the last 5 years. Political party funding or just broadly political financing has been an issue ever since 1994, really. In order to have good representation, in order to have good political parties and now soon to be independents that we can vote for, they need to have enough money to be able to contest be out in the public space and have people be able to take notice of them. However, what is the issue about the funding is that we don't want to see private interest, private funders able to circumvent this process by having their needs and wants be placed first, and ordinary members of the public sit very low in the priority of needs for political parties or independents for that matter.
Yes, and I think also, when one looks at the larger parties and when one looks at funding in general with the larger parties, in terms of, how much they have at their disposal ahead of an election in terms of resources, in terms of even manpower, I would say, for one of a better term. And yeah, now for the very first time, we're talking about independent candidates. So it's actually going to be quite interesting to actually see how this actually plays out in terms of the campaigns, but also in the build up to the elections.
Absolutely. And I think this is really one of the main issues, particularly for independents who are wanting to be able to contest the space, is that there is a disparity between being an independent and obviously being a member of a political party or just the political party as an institution. And even amongst political parties, you'll have those that are more well known, that are larger, and of course, smaller ones and emerging parties. So the whole framework around how money is used is a very topical issue as we head into elections. And obviously, if you have money at your disposal, you may be able to reach the public in ways that those political parties who are smaller or independents who have less money are not able to. So this is a very crucial time for both political parties and independent candidates.
Yes. Now, just looking at the Electoral Amendment Act that we are talking about, in time for the election. Now, I know there have been many, many submissions that have actually been made. Are there any areas of concern?
Well, there, as you say, have been many submissions have been made. My Vote Counts has been one of those organizations who made submissions just on Tuesday. And one of our main concerns, as I said, is around the funding. So the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill, as I said earlier, it forces what is called consequential amendments. In other words, amendments that must take place because of a particular ruling or because of another act, in this case, the Electoral Amendment Act. And we must include independent candidates. So we're doing that in the pieces of legislation that are necessary, party funding being one of it. Two main areas of concern. Number one, there seems to be more scope for the president to be able to use his or her discretion in setting what is called disclosure limits. In other words, 100,000 Rand, which is currently set at, you need to make this donation first to a political party in order for your donation to be known. And the 15 million Rand upper limit, which is the limit of a donation that you can make to a political party in a year. So what the amendment says is that the president can actually take into factors like political parties saying, well, it costs me X amount to run my party, to do electioneering or campaigning. And the issue is that with that is that you can submit anything you like, and the president can take that into account and increase these thresholds I'm talking about. So this leads to increased secrecy and possibly a situation where private interests are relied upon heavily. And then secondly, the other major issue is that the amendments for the Party Funding Act are also calling for changes to the allocation formula for some public funding that you receive under the Party Funding Act. So instead of being a two-thirds at 66.6%, where money is given on a proportional basis, and a one-third, which is 33.3%, on an equitable basis. Instead, that's been increased to proportional at 90% and equitable at 10%. In other words, larger parties will continue to receive the largest slice of the pie to the detriment of smaller parties and independent candidates.
Robyn, will we be able to put all of this to bed by the time elections come up? I mean, are we going to see finality on this particular matter?
Well, the short answer is we have to. We cannot go into elections without the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill being concluded. It's necessary for the functioning of the elections. Independents won't be able to do what they can do if these related pieces of laws are not amended, and we will also have issues with regards to funding of independence. So it's a must. It has to be concluded. So there's actually deliberations being taken place by the portfolio committee this Friday, and they will discuss all of our submissions that we made earlier this week. So yes, the timetable for getting this through is very short, and it has to happen before elections.
Well, Robyn, thank you very much for that, and also taking time out this morning with us. Obviously, we will watch the space, but for now, we appreciate your time. All the best to you.
Thank you so much.
Robyn Pasensie with us this morning, Masters in Political Science and a PhD candidate, and this is going to be quite interesting in terms of the Electoral Matters Amendment Bill and what actually comes out ahead of the elections. The time is just gone 9:32. We will be back with British journalist and also Yvonne Riley taking a look at 13 years since the fall of Hosni Mubarak.